in the dusty, sun-baked village of Su. Each day began with the gentle bleating of goats and ended under the soft, flickering hum of oil lamps. This was the world of Ion, a 10-year-old boy whose eyes held a fire, a brightness that seemed almost out of place in his simple surroundings. Tucked securely under his arm, he always carried an old, cracked slate. It was a hand-me-down, its edges chipped and its surface worn smooth by time and use. But to Ajan, this wasn't just a piece of stone. It was a magical window, a portal to a world shimmering with possibilities, a world filled with the elegant dance of letters, the solid truth of numbers, and dreams that stretched far beyond the sugarcane fields that bordered his village. Every single morning, his bare feet would kick up little clouds of dust as he ran, not to play, but to reach the single-room village school. Its blue paint was peeling, weathered by years of sun and rain, but inside, something wondrous happened. He would press himself against the wall, peering through the window to watch Mr. Rahman. The teacher's chalk didn't just write, it seemed to carve light into the darkness of the blackboard, illuminating minds and futures. Ion, however, was only an observer, a ghost at the feast of knowledge. His family, though rich in love, was poor in coin. They couldn't afford the simple uniform, let alone the precious books that held the keys to the kingdom he so desperately wanted to enter. His father, Salim, was a good man, his hands calloused from a lifetime of laying bricks. His mother, Zainab, spent her days washing clothes for the village landlord, her knuckles raw but her spirit strong. Ion, my son, Salim would often say, his voice heavy with the weight of practicality. You don't need school to fill your stomach. You'll need to work. You need to learn a trade. He meant well, of course. For him, survival was the only lesson that mattered. But for Ion, something else was true. Every time he saw Mr. Rahman form a letter on the blackboard, a strange thing would happen. The gnawing ache in his stomach would simply disappear, replaced by a different kind of hunger. Hunger for learning that no amount of food could ever satisfy. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun beat down on the parched earth, Ion lingered by the school window long after the other children had gone home. Mr. Rahman was cleaning the blackboard, his movements slow and deliberate. He caught a glimpse of Ion's small face in the reflection of the glass. He'd noticed the boy before, a silent, constant presence at the edge of his classroom. With a gentle smile, Mr. Rahman walked to the door and beckoned him in. You like what you see, don't you? He asked, his voice kind. Ion's heart hammered against his ribs. Abe just nodded, unable to speak, clutching his cracked slate so tightly his knuckles turned white. He was standing inside the classroom. For the first time, he was on the other side of the window. Mr. Rahman pointed to a simple equation left on the board. Do you know what this is? He asked. Ion looked at the numbers, his mind racing, recalling the lessons he had overheard. Hesitantly, he picked up a small piece of chalk from the floor and, on his own faded slate, wrote the answer. Mr. Rahman's eyes widened in surprise, then crinkled with warmth. He saw it then, the same fire he had seen in his own eyes as a young boy. You have a gift, son, he said softly, a gift that shouldn't be wasted outside a window. That evening, Mr. Rahman visited Ion's home. He sat on the floor with Salim and Zainab, speaking not of fees or uniforms, but of potential, of a future brighter than any oil lamp. He offered to tutor Ion after school, for free. He would even provide the books. Salim was skeptical. He saw his own hard life reflected in his son's future. Tichorgi, he said respectfully. Dreams don't build walls or feed families. But Zainab, watching her son's face illuminated with a hope she hadn't seen in years, placed a hand on her husband's arm. But maybe, she whispered, they can build a different kind of home for his spirit. And so, it began. Every afternoon, after the school bell rang, Ion's real school day would start. He devoured books like they were the sweetest mangoes, his mind a fertile field ready for planting. He learned about history, about distant oceans he couldn't imagine, and about stars that were more than just silver specks in the night sky. His old slate was soon filled with complex equations and a vocabulary that blossomed day by day. Word of the bricklayer's prodigy's son spread through Sundar. Some villagers scoffed, whispering that it was a waste of time. A bird born in a cage will never learn to fly, they'd say. but others watched with quiet admiration. They saw a boy who worked in the fields with his father in the morning and debated poetry with his teacher in the afternoon. Ion was bridging two worlds, with his worn-out slate as the crossing. He never forgot his father's words. He understood the value of hard work, the reality of an empty stomach, but he also understood the power of an enlightened mind. He saw that education wasn't about escaping his world, but about learning how to transform it. Years flew by. Ion's thirst for knowledge never waned. He excelled, winning a scholarship to a high school in the nearby city, and then another to a university. The boy with the cracked slate became a man with a degree in engineering. When he finally returned to Sundarpur, he didn't come back in a fancy car or with airs of superiority. He came back with blueprints and a team of workers. He stood in the very spot where the old, single-room schoolhouse once stood. He looked at Mr. Raman, now old and gray but with the same light in his eyes. And he looked at his parents, their faces etched with pride. Father Ion said, his voice thick with emotion, "You taught me how to lay bricks. Mr. Raman taught me how to build dreams. Today, we do both." And they did. Ion didn't just build a new school. He built the finest school the district had ever seen. It had multiple rooms, a library filled with books, and even a small science lab. He named it the Salim and Zanab School of Sundarpur. He ensured that no child would ever have to stand outside a window again, that no family would have to choose between a uniform and a meal. The boy who once peeked through a window had now opened a door for an entire generation. His story became a quiet legend in the village, a reminder that poverty can shackle the hands, but it can never imprison a mind that yearns to be free. The faint hum of oil lamps was slowly replaced by the steady glow of electric bulbs, and the bleating of goats was now joined by the joyful sound of children reading aloud, their voices carrying the promise of 1,000 new dreams. Ion had a ritual. Every single afternoon, after a long, hot morning delivering tea to the hard-working men at the bustling construction site, he'd find his way to a special spot. He would sneak quietly behind the old-school building, settle down by an open window, and just listen. He'd listen to Mr. Raman's lessons, letting the words wash over him. To Ion, the rhythmic tap-tap of chalk hitting the blackboard wasn't just a sound. It was music. It was the sound of a world he desperately wanted to be a part of. B for bird. Mr. Raman's voice would drift through the window. And outside, hidden from view, Ion would whisper the words back, his own voice barely a breath. B for bird. He followed every lesson, every sound, every new idea, clinging to them like treasures. One afternoon, something different happened. Mr. Raman, while teaching, noticed a small, fleeting shadow just outside the window. He saw the faint movement of lips, mouthing the very same words he was teaching his class. A wave of curiosity and compassion washed over him. After the school bell rang and the children had all gone home, he stepped outside quietly. There, crouched behind a large neem tree, he found Ion. The boy was so focused, tracing letters on a cracked, worn-out slate he held in his lap, that he didn't even notice the teacher approaching. "Why don't you come inside, Ion?" Mr. Raman asked, his voice gentle so as not to startle him. The boy froze, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and surprise. He looked down at his dusty clothes, then back at the kind face of the teacher. "I'm not a student, sir," he mumbled, his voice small. Mr. Raman's lips curved into a warm, encouraging smile. "Then let's fix that," he sighed simply. The next morning, hope fluttered in Ion's chest like a trapped bird. He walked timidly towards the classroom, his heart thumping with a mix of excitement and nervousness. But just as he reached the threshold, a loud, angry voice thundered from the doorway, shattering the quiet morning air. It was his father, Salim. "He won't be coming here," Salim barked, his face a mask of frustration. "He's got work to do. We don't need dreams." Mr. Raman's gaze fell on Ion's face. He saw the internal battle raging within the little boy, the pull of obedience to his father against the desperate yearning for knowledge. The hope that had been shining so brightly in his eyes was dimming. Looking from the dejected boy to his determined father, Mr. Raman spoke softly, but with a deep conviction that filled the space between them. "Maybe not today," he said, "but one day, dreams will feed this world." That ebony Ion sat by the river, holding a kite he'd made from scraps of newspaper and thin bamboo sticks. He loved the feel of the paper, the way the ink looked against its surface. He'd read the letters printed on it, tracing them with his finger even though he didn't understand what most of them meant. His older sister Zainab came quietly and sat beside him, the silence between them comfortable. "You'll fly it tomorrow?" she asked, her voice soft. Ion nodded, a determined look in his eyes. "It flies better when I write my name on it," he said, a belief he held deep in his heart. Zainab smiled, but it was a sad smile, tinged with a reality she knew all too well. "Then you'll have to learn to write it properly." He looked up at her, his face alight with hope. "You'll teach me." She shook her head, looking away toward the horizon. "I can't, Ion. I can't even read the sign on the bus." His shoulders slumped. A familiar sigh escaped him. "Then who will teach me?" Zainab turned back, her expression softening as she brushed a stray piece of hair from his forehead. "Maybe the sky will," she whispered, her words a gentle encouragement. But it wasn't just the sky that was listening. Mr. Rahman, the kind schoolteacher, hadn't forgotten the boy with the cracked slate and the thirst for knowledge. Every few days, he would leave small, precious pieces of chalk on the ledge behind the school. It was never much, just enough to fill Ion's small hands, but to Ion, it was a treasure beyond measure. Night after night, long after the village had settled into a quiet slumber, Ion began his secret lessons. He used the smooth mud walls of his small house as his blackboard. Under the dim, flickering flame of a single kerosene lamp, letters danced in white dust. He would practice the shapes Mr. Rahman had shown him, his brow furrowed in concentration. Zainab saw him, of course. She would pretend not to notice when their father, Salim, came home tired and angry from a long day of work, muttering under his breath, "Chalk won't fill pots." She knew her father's frustration wasn't with Ion, but with the weight. So, she kept her brother's secret, guarding his small flame of hope. Then, one night, something new appeared on the wall. It wasn't just random letters or practice swirls. It was a name, Ion Salim Khan. His own name. It was shaky, the letters uneven and a little clumsy, but it was his. Every curve and every line was a testament to his silent, nightly efforts. When his mother Zainab came into the room and saw it, she stopped. Her eyes traced the dusty white letters on the dark wall. She looked from the name to her son, who stood there shyly, clutching a small piece of chalk. Tears welled in her eyes, catching the lamplight like tiny stars. "You did this?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. He nodded, a small, proud smile gracing his lips. She closed the distance between them and hugged him tight, holding him as if he were the most precious thing in the world. She pulled back, her hands on his shoulders, and looked him straight in the eye. "Never stop, Beta," she whispered fiercely. "Never stop." In that small, mud-walled home, under the glow of a single lamp, a promise was made. A promise that a boy's determination, fueled by a mother's love and a teacher's quiet kindness, could overcome any obstacle. Ion's journey had just begun. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring stories. A month later, a notice appeared outside the village school, tacked onto the old wooden door. It was a beacon of hope. District scholarship for rural students. Full education support. My heart pounded like a drum against my ribs as I read the words aloud, my voice barely a whisper. To apply, you had to write a short essay. A simple essay on my dream. The words echoed in my mind. I didn't have clean paper or a proper pencil, but I had something far more powerful. I had a dream. And at that moment, I knew that was more than enough. That night, a small oil lamp cast long, dancing shadows on the walls of our hut. I carefully smoothed out the back of old, torn newspaper sheets. In my hand, I clutched the precious stub of chalk Mr. Rahman had given me. its dusty white a stark contrast to the grimy newsprint. I began to write, each letter a declaration of my deepest wish. The words flowed from a place I didn't even know existed within me. My dream, I wrote, is to become a teacher. I paused, the image of myself sitting outside the classroom window flashing in my mind. I continued, so that no boy has to sit outside the window like I did. Each word was a piece of my soul, a promise to my future self and to every child who yearned for a chance. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen and the village was still waking, I slipped into the silent schoolyard. The air was cool and smelled of damp earth. My heart was in my throat as I tiptoed into the empty classroom. Mr. Rahman's desk stood there, a silent, sturdy witness to my hopes. With trembling hands, I placed my makeshift essay on his desk, right where he would see it. Then, I vanished as quietly as I had come, leaving my dream in his hands. Days turned into a week, then 2. Every morning, I would glance at the school notice board, my stomach twisting with a mix of hope and fear. The rains came early that year, not with a gentle pitter-patter, but with a vengeance. The sky turned a bruised purple-gray and unleashed a torrent. The river, our lifeline, swelled into a raging monster, swallowing the fields whole. Our crops, our livelihood, drowned under the murky water. With the fields gone, all work stopped. The restless energy in our small hut grew thicker each day. My father, Salim, paced back and forth, his face a mask of worry. "No work means no food," he grumbled, his voice heavy. "We may have to go to the city. There's nothing for us here now." His words struck me like a physical blow. Go to the city, my heart sank into a deep, cold pit. Leaving the village meant leaving everything behind. It meant leaving Mr. Rahman, the school, and the window that had become my classroom. It meant losing my only chance at finding out about the scholarship. The city was a world away, a place where my little dream would surely get lost and forgotten. That night was the worst. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking our small hut, and the rain hammered down relentlessly on the thatched roof. I sat at the open doorway, watching the lightning split the sky, tracing brilliant, jagged lines, like chalk, on a vast, dark blackboard. The world outside was a storm of chaos, mirroring the tempest in my heart. I closed my eyes and whispered into the roaring night, a small, desperate prayer against the thunder. "Please," I pleaded with the storm, with the sky, with anyone who might be listening. "Please, don't take my school away." Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring content. A week later, something incredible happened in a government jeep, a rare sight in our quiet village, rolled down the dusty path and stopped right in the schoolyard. Out stepped the district officer, a man with an important air, holding a stack of official-looking papers. He called out in a voice that carried across the yard, "Who is Ayan Salim Khan?" Mr. Rahman, our village teacher, looked just as surprised as everyone else. He started to explain, "He's not officially enrolled, sir, but he never got to finish his sentence." Just then, as if summoned by his name, little Ayan appeared from behind the crowd of curious villagers. He was clutching his small, worn slate, his hands trembling. Was he in trouble? We all held our breath. But then, the officer's stern face broke into a warm smile. "You're Asa," he announced. His voice, filled with pride, was chosen. "You've won the scholarship." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. It was a moment of pure disbelief. Ayan's father, Salim, pushed his way to the front. Completely speechless, he stammered, "My boy? But he's just a boy." Mr. Ramon placed a gentle hand on Salim's shoulder and interrupted softly. "He's a student now." That's when we all saw it. Tears of joy glistened in Ayan's eyes as the officer handed him a brand new school satchel and a crisp, clean uniform. For the first time in his young life, Ayan looked like the world was his to conquer, a blank page just waiting for him to write his own amazing story. 2 weeks later, the entire village gathered to say goodbye. It was the day Ayan would leave for the big district boarding school. The air was thick with emotion, a mix of sadness and immense pride. Salim, a man humbled by his son's achievement, placed his rough, calloused hands on Ion's head. His voice was a quiet whisper, meant only for his son, but his words reached all of our hearts. "Forgive me," he said. "I thought dreams were useless. But maybe I just forgot how to dream." Ion hugged his father tighter than ever before. "I'll study hard, Abba," he promised, his voice clear and strong. "One day, I'll come back and build a school right here in Sundar." His mother, Zainab, stepped forward and handed him his old, cracked slate. "Keep it," she said, her eyes shining with love, "so you never forget where you started." As the bus pulled away, we weren't just waving goodbye to a little boy. We were waving to the future of our village, a future full of hope and endless possibilities. And that's the story of Ion, a boy who taught us all that a dream, no matter how small, has the power to change everything. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of hope and inspiration. We'll see you in the next video. Years flew by, pages turning in a book. Letters started arriving from the big city, each one a little beacon of hope. They came on crisp, lined paper, the handwriting neat and full of promise. Ami, I stood first in class. The words would make his mother's heart swell with pride. Abba, I'm helping the younger kids with their reading now. His father would read that line over and over, a slow smile spreading across his face. And to his mentor, Mr. Rahman, "Sir, I'll be back soon." Each letter was a thread, connecting Ion's new life in the bustling city to his roots in quiet sun. Then, one day, a letter arrived that was different. It was the one they had all been waiting for, the one that carried the weight of a promise fulfilled. Mr. Rahman held it in his hands, his vision blurring as he read the words. "I've finished college. I'm coming home." But that wasn't all. "I'm coming home to start a school in Sundar free for every child who dreams." In that moment, through his tears, Mr. Rahman's smile was brighter than the sun over the fields. The boy who once chased dreams under the vast sky was finally coming back to bring the sky a little closer for everyone else. Imagine this: a bright, clear morning in sun. The kind of morning where the air feels fresh and full of possibilities. A crowd had gathered, not for a festival or a market day, but for something new, something that held the future in its very foundation. They stood near the old, familiar neem tree, its branches swaying gently as if in approval. And there it was, a small, humble building with clean, white walls that seemed to soak up the morning sun. Above the door, painted in bold, hopeful letters, were the words, "The New Dawn School founded by Ion Salim Khan." From inside, you could hear the most beautiful sound in the world, the laughter of children. It spilled out of the open windows, mixing with the gentle click-clacking of slates and the soft scratching of chalk. Sunlight streamed through the doorway, illuminating the air, making the floating chalk dust look like 1,000 tiny, sparkling stars. It was a scene straight out of a dream that had taken years of hard work and unwavering belief to build. Standing there, watching it all, was an older Ion. The years had changed him, but the light in his eyes was the same. He stood beside his parents, their faces etched with a pride so deep it brought tears to their eyes. Their son, their little Ion, had done it. He had come home. Mr. Ramon, his hair now streaked with gray, but his smile as kind as ever, walked up and placed a gentle hand on Ion's shoulder. His voice was thick with emotion as he said, "You did it, Ion." Ion turned, a soft, grateful smile on his face. He looked at his old teacher, at his parents, at the school buzzing with life, and replied, "We did it, sir." It wasn't just his victory. It was tears. It was Sundarper's. As he watched the children inside, their small hands gripping pieces of chalk, carefully scribbling their names for the very first time, a profound realization washed over him. The sky, which had once seemed so impossibly far away, wasn't so far after all. He had brought a piece of it right here, to his village. And so, a new tradition began every single morning, as the sun climbed higher. Ion would walk into his classroom. He'd pick up a piece of chalk, and, on the clean blackboard, he would write one single, powerful line. The children there, faces bright and eager, would read it aloud together. Their voices, a chorus of pure potential, would echo from the little school, rolling through the open fields and across the village. The words they recited were a mantra, a promise, a truth that now lived in the heart of their community. Dreams do need wings, they just need someone to believe. And in that classroom, as the morning sunlight caught the chalk dust dancing in the air, it truly looked like 1,000 tiny dreams, shimmering and rising towards a sky that was now, for the children of Sundarper, limitless. This story reminds us that the greatest achievements aren't just about reaching for the stars, but about bringing the stars down for others to reach. 2, it's about creating a legacy not of what you have, but of what you give. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to Sun. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring content. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, keep believing.